Hello everybody, this is Deep Cosmic Space Wizard, and this is my review of the Diablo 4 Open Beta. So we have character creation, and first we start off with picking our class. You have the Barbarian, the Necromancer, the Sorcerer, the Rogue, and the Druid. Each of them have different fighting styles and different abilities, but I like the Sorcerer, so I went ahead and chose the Sorcerer here. So then you could choose between a male or a female. I chose female, and then you could choose between hairstyles, different colors, and facial hair if you'd like. And then after that you could put on makeup or jewelry and different tattoos, and you could also choose the colors for your tattoos here. Then you can make your character's name. I named my character Laveau, and then you could have tutorial preferences for more guidance or less guidance. This is strictly up to you. I chose more guidance. And then difficulty, you have tier 1 and then tier 2, or adventurer and veteran. I chose veteran because I just like a more difficult challenge, and I'm used to the game already.
Grabbing loot, unlocking chests, leveling up, finding new gear, getting more abilities, exploring new places, fighting monsters, progressing the story, side quests, PvE encounters, PvP, and thinking about how to get the most out of your builds is what makes Diablo games so addicting. It always has that just one more feeling to it, and I love it. The gameplay in Diablo 4 feels good when you move your character around and when you're attacking the enemies. You can really feel the impact of your abilities when you're fighting the monsters, and the variety in your adversaries you face is diverse enough to keep you content with the different fighting styles, statures, movements, and appearances, and they all feel appropriate for where you fight them. Annihilating hordes of enemies is satisfying and keeps you looking for more. There are numerous dungeons to explore around the map with nice loot in them, and I always enjoyed each one that I went into. The towns in the game all felt like they were meant to be in the world in Diablo 4. They all felt cold and gritty, and with characters that are in need of help, that have main quests and side quests, which the side quests weren't always anything too spectacular, nothing super creative, but it did help give the world more of a feeling of it being alive, and you always got gear and experience for them, so it was always fun to find those and hear the characters' woes about what's going on and helping them out. You also find waypoints throughout the towns, which allow you to travel more faster through the map, which make it easy to go from town to town or just jump around the world once you unlock these waypoints. In Diablo 4, there's also these Lilith statues that grant bonuses to your characters permanently, but finding them isn't always obvious, and sometimes you have to explore a little more carefully to find them. I thought these were a nice addition to the game, and the bonuses that they give aren't anything too extreme, but enough to give you a little boost. In the towns, you're also able to talk to the blacksmiths, which allow you to upgrade your gear, craft new items, or just unlock gear that you can wear at any point in the game. If you go to your chest, where you can swap out different items to make your character look different. And then there's also the alchemist, which allows you to upgrade your potions, or to create potions that are consumables that give you temporary stat boosts. And then you have your jeweler in the game, which allows you to craft your gems and infuse it with your gear to give yourself permanent stat boosts. Now, there are these PvE encounters that have specific requirements to beat, and there's usually 2 levels of requirements. One being harder than the other, and if you beat the harder one, you get better gear. Because at the end of the PvE encounter, if you complete it, you get a chest, and if you beat the harder requirement, you get better loot out of the chest. These PvP encounters are a nice little addition But once again, they're not really anything too creative, but I think they're a nice way to get players to interact with each other and to take on challenges and to perhaps have a chance of connecting with another player in the world, which also gives the game a feeling of being alive and there being other players in the world doing something at the same time as you. The bosses in the game, it felt right for a Diablo game, although I do wish some of them had more attacks and different patterns, as they kind of just felt too easy and too predictable. But some of the bosses, they were really fun to fight, and I had to keep on moving around and really pay attention to what attacks they were using and focus on evading different abilities, and I had to keep track of multiple enemies at once, and it was very engaging to fight some of the bosses. There was this boss called the Butcher. He's an asshole, and I don't know if they're going to put him in the full release of the game, but in the beta, he would just randomly pop up in certain dungeons, and he was a really hard boss to fight. I'd never beat him. I only encountered him twice, but each time he just completely just wrecked me. So now the abilities in Diablo, you have a path of abilities that you can unlock by leveling up or getting ability points, and with each point you can choose where you want to spend it, and you start off with a few different choices to pick from, and as you spend more points you unlock more abilities, which also allows you to go deeper down the ability tree. Diablo 4 doesn't have an overly complex ability tree like Path of Exile, but it does feel more approachable and still diverse enough to be satisfying. I played the Sorcerer, and as a Sorcerer you can choose between 3 different main elements: fire, ice, and lightning. Ice has the ability to slow, lightning does lots of chain damage, and fire burns over time. Obviously there are more nuances to the abilities, but these are the main differences to the three elements. And I really enjoyed playing the Sorcerer and mixing around the different elements for different combos and situations. Now, there are these places on the map called strongholds, which I really had a blast conquering. They're these really difficult areas in the game once you reach level 25 in the beta. And you had to just go through all these like difficult monsters and really difficult like rare monsters that you'd fight, or kind of like little mini bosses. And after you took over the stronghold, you would clear out the area and humans would come and take over the area, and you'd unlock like a waypoint and some merchants and stuff like that. And these were just really fun to play through. When I played through in my beta, I played with a friend, and we just had lots of laugh out loud moments, and it was just really cool to see like how strong our characters were and seeing them fight against the hardest content, in my opinion, in the game. But all in all, Diablo's 4 gameplay is really good, and even though it hasn't made any groundbreaking game design, it does what it does best: being an addicting game of onslaught and reward.
Now, the story for Diablo 4. So the story of Diablo 4 opens up with Lilith being summoned back into Sanctuary. So we know that Lilith is one of the main center focal points of the Diablo 4 story. And later on we come to find that Inarius is also in Sanctuary, and he's not very fond of Lilith. But if we don't know these characters' pasts, this doesn't really make much sense to us. So in order to understand Diablo 4's story, we have to go back into the past. Back into the beginning, when hell and heaven were fighting the great conflict. Now, Inarius is one of the most powerful angels in heaven. Inarius is very revered, and he was used to fight against the 3 prime evils in the great conflict. Now, over time, Inarius grew jaded by the aeons of conflict, and he wanted to convince the angel Tyrael that the endless war was for naught. Now, Tyrael was too consumed by his lust for war to understand any kind of peaceful resolution. So Inarius knew that it was pointless to continue talking to this angel named Tyrael, and he decided to look elsewhere for more like-minded individuals who wanted to end this war. And during one particular brutal battle at the Pandemonium Fortress, Inarius' forces were soundly defeated, and the angel was captured by his demonic enemies. He was imprisoned by one of the three prime evils, Mephisto, the Lord of Hatred. And Inarius was bound in chains, ranting about his desire for the great conflict to come to an end. But eventually, Lilith, the daughter of Mephisto, freed Inarius. Because Lilith, too, had the same desire to end the endless war. So, Inarius and Lilith fell in love. They came up with a plan to capture this world stone. It was an item of unimaginable power, and they were planning on using it to create Sanctuary, the world in which Diablo 4 takes place. Now, originally Sanctuary was created to be a utopian landscape to escape the conflicts between heaven and hell. And at first it was ruled just by a few angels and some demons, all with the same desire to escape the war. But little did anybody else know that Inarius secretly took the world stone to himself, and in the process he became the most powerful being in the sanctuary. This will eventually become Inarius' downfall. But for now, Lilith and Inarius eventually give birth to a race called the Nephilim, humanity's predecessors. This creation would cause an uprise in both heaven and hell. It was blasphemy to the demons and the angels. So all the inhabitants of Sanctuary were very nervous, and they started persecuting the Nephilim, the predecessors to humanity. This enraged Lilith to become murderous, slaughtering anything to protect her offspring. She destroyed much of Sanctuary just to protect the thing that she loved. Now Inarius was unable to strike her down, promising to never physically hurt her, so he instead banished her into the void to prevent her from destroying Sanctuary. Now, some would say this is a fate worse than death, and Lilith was never able to forgive Inarius for his betrayal. In her absence, Inarius used the World Stone to diminish the powers of his children, evident that any challenge to his perfect world would be met with uncompromising retaliation. Inarius created the Cathedral of Light, a holy order designed to protect the Sanctuary and bring order to the fractured world, and protect Sanctuary from the three primary evils. But after some time, Lilith was eventually able to escape the void. And in the war called the Sin War, Lilith gathered up an army, led by Uldisian, a powerful Nephilim. And in the Sin War, after much time, the Edrium were able to eradicate much of their presence on Sanctuary. However, Lilith was once again not powerful enough to challenge Inarius, and he once again banished her to the void, taking greater precaution to prevent a second escape. However, Uldisian was able to take the World Stone from Inarius, and defeated and captured Inarius, and then sent him to punishment to be tortured in hell by Mephisto for eternity. Now, we come back to the current events where Lilith has been summoned into the sanctuary, and now she seeks revenge as she has now escaped for the third time out of the void, and she wants justice for her husband's betrayal. Anarius has also proven to escape his chains from Mephisto's eternal punishment. And this is where the story of Diablo 4 takes place.
So, how are the visuals for this game? Well, starting with the opening cutscene, I have to tip my hat off to the developers because the opening cutscene is absolutely amazing. Blizzard always does a really good job with their cutscenes, and this game is no exception. If you haven't seen this cutscene yet, I definitely recommend you go watch the Diablo 4 opening cutscene because it's just so amazing. Now, for character customization, it's pretty good. It's not as good as, say, Morrowind or any of the Elder Scrolls games where you have an extensive amount of options to tweak and adjust, but it's good enough to where you could change the character's main features and make them look different enough to be distinct. And then we have the other cutscenes in the game that aren't like the opening cutscene, but they're still really good. And then just the whole entire world design is all really nice. I really love the moody atmosphere of the game. I love how everything's frigid and cold and all the little details that they pay attention to, like the broken down buildings or just random little living creatures that are just on the side of the map. Some weird abominations. The lighting in the game from the fires is all really cool. Everything from, the frosted, frigid ice lands to the Cathedral of Light with the shiny, glowy aesthetic on the ground to how the monsters look. All of this is really good. I really like it. It all feels really gritty, grim, and dark, which is exactly how the game should be, I feel. And all the dungeons are very well done. The lighting, once again, is something that I really favor here. It's not overly bright, but it's bright enough so you can see, and there's definitely a very focused aspect here on how much light is being projected around your character, kind of creating like a fog of war. And all in all, the graphics for this game I'm really happy about. I really do feel like this is my favorite Diablo game for graphics by far, and I really am excited to see what they release for the rest of the content in the full release in June. And now, last but not least, how is the audio for this game? Well, if you were to ask me, play a little tune that you remember from the game, like I would from Legend of Zelda or Super Mario Brothers, I would no way in hell be able to just hum a little tune from the game. There's nothing very memorable here in the game, but it's all audio that's very suiting for the game. All of it's very ambient kind of sounds or music.
And here's an example.
And all the sound effects are very good. The sound effects when you attack and cast your spells or magic or whatever it might be, all sounds like it should. It all has an impact to it, and there's a weight to your abilities and to your attacks. The barrels breaking or the potions dropping are all a nice little fun touch to the game. And all in all, the sound and the music for the game is really just more a background kind of thing. But it's all very fitting. The voice acting for the game can be very good or just okay. There's some characters in the game whose voice acting is just super phenomenal, especially with the deep, dark voices that they have in the game for a couple of characters.
If you're going to trespass into my home, rifle through my things. Then at least have the decency to join me for supper. I'm bloody hungry.
Yes, I know you were fed her blood. Do you feel it changing you? Perhaps not yet, but as long as Lilith walks in your world, it is only a matter of time.
I don't... Lilith has entered the ancient city. With your blessing, I can pursue her.
Your kind are weak, and this world has been wasted on the crusades of the unworthy.
I can stop her.
This audience is concluded.
And then you have your, stock voice actors who are just villagers in the town, and they're just telling you about a quest that they have or saying something random.
I'm sorry, it's a bit cramped.
It's still better than a cave.
Fire's looking good, but I should watch it a little longer to make sure it doesn't go out.
What's that? You say something?
If Devmir's taking up all the space by the fire, just give him a shove.
So, all the sounds in the game all fit where they need to, and the voice acting can be very, very great for certain characters, especially some of the main characters when they're really trying to create a certain atmosphere around a character. They can make them sound very powerful or very dark and ominous. So, all in all, I would say the sound for the game is it's what it should be. Nothing memorable as far as music goes, but I feel like if the music was too in the forefront, it would actually get in the way of the game. So I'm actually happy they don't have music in the forefront of the game. I feel like it belongs where it should be, and that's in the background. So yeah, all in all, it's really good music and sound.
Okay, so this concludes my review for Diablo 4. This was my very first review ever, and I really do hope you guys enjoyed it. I really enjoyed making the video. And one more thing before I go is I forgot to talk about the world bosses in the game. But that's because I didn't play the world bosses through my beta run through. I didn't get on during the times that I was scheduled to get on to fight the boss, so I didn't get to experience that content. But other than that, I do hope you guys enjoyed the review, and peace.